Not long after filming started for Spider-Man Brand New Day, Michael Mando posted these photos to his story. He's an actor known primarily for Better Call Saul, who also briefly appeared in Spider-Man Homecoming as a setup for the Scorpion. He had his name and a neck tattoo of the arthropod, but that's about it. There's an end credit scene where the main antagonist of the film, the Vulture, sees him in prison and they exchange some words about the web crawler, but Vulture chooses to protect Peter's identity. Many at the time thought this was a perfect setup for a sequel to Tom's first film, but it seems studio plans changed that up a lot when Spider-Man Far From Home came around. Mac Gargan is never even mentioned once, and that continues throughout the third film as well. Now in Tom's fourth outing as Spider-Man, it seems we're finally getting a proper Scorpion, and possibly even more. The Scorpion, in my opinion, is a really cool villain, and his origin would kind of fit perfectly here with a slight change. In the original books, J. Jonah Jameson hires Mac Gargan to become a personal investigator. He does this in hopes of finding evidence that'll lead to taking down Spider-Man. Classic JJ stuff. But it's our friendly neighborhood do-gooder, so that of course does not work, and Jameson's next best bet was a scientific experiment. This was funded pretty much solely by J. Jonah Jameson and was performed to create a super-powered person that can finally take down Spider-Man. And they could totally do something similar to this, but maybe swap Jonah with Kingpin, as I'm assuming this will take place not long after Daredevil has restored order to the city in Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. I suppose they really could go the Jameson route since he is in these films. I just don't feel the personal vendetta there for him to go all the way like that. But Kingpin, he hates vigilantes. After the first couple of photos shared to his story, a few days later Michael uploaded these to his story, which sparked a lot more controversy in where they're going with this character. This is now twice he's shared a photo of not only a classic Scorpion costume, meaning we can most likely see something similar to that in the movie. More importantly though is the detail of the symbiote being involved. In the comics, Mac Gargan's Scorpion does get the Venom symbiote, and becomes the mainline Venom for a little while. However, the way he gets the symbiote is practically impossible to set up here, so I'm very interested to see how and if that's the route they're going. Originally, Scorpion is sent by Norman Osborn to kidnap Aunt May, and long story short, he comes in contact with a symbiote and becomes Venom. He then goes on quite a few adventures in those books. He eventually becomes a Thunderbolt. I never stayed super on top of this storyline, but it does happen. It also happens to be the case that Mac Gargan is Venom in the Brand New Day books that this film seems to be taking its title from. Mac also comes across Eddie Brock in these books, and the symbiote tries to return to him and bond, but rejects it, and Eddie actually becomes anti-Venom. In these books, it's a much more classic design of Scorpion, but with an even more threatening Venomized design, instead of that giant hulking beast we're used to seeing in most media. Especially after Sony's latest take on the sticky symbiotes, I can definitely see them going a different direction if they want to put Tom Holland in that black suit soon. It doesn't seem like they're pulling many things from the plot of those Brand New Day books, but this would be something that I think could be received greatly if it's executed well. After all of the reports of Mr. Negative not being in this film, it seems like they'll need a big threat, and we already know Scorpion isn't the main villain. What if the main villain isn't actually a person, and it's the symbiote itself? That would explain how Hulk becomes enraged again, since this does happen in the Immortal Hulk books. I could absolutely see the symbiote attaching to Banner, who was already confirmed to be casted in this movie, and I'm thinking when it does, it offsets that balance that Smart Hulk had worked hard on for those years between Infinity War and Endgame. I could absolutely see the symbiote being unable to bond with this sort of host, leaving, and thus sending Hulk on a rampage after being somewhat trapped inside for so long. Gargan could then get the symbiote, becoming the main focus for Spidey. This would also give Hulk an exit from the film, since he needs to find his way into Avengers Doomsday somehow. The only thing that confuses me a bit about this theory is how Punisher would play into something this big, but small scale at the same time. I do love the idea of both him and Scorpion just being two men-on-the-job types when it comes to these sort of things. They're both just muscle for hire in their own personal sense, though you can't really pay Frank to do something he doesn't want to do. There are a few rumors of the Rhino as well, which we'll get into in just a second. But Marvel is known for putting out fake news and casting sometimes to kind of muddy the waters between what's real and what isn't. It'd be really interesting if all of these explosions and crashes happening through the city are not being caused by a rampaging Hulk, but by a rampant Rhino. This would sort of throw the first half of this Venomized theory in the water, but I think a Venomized Scorpion is definitely possible whichever direction they do go. But who knows, maybe I'm way off and we're just getting a classic Scorpion, Hulk is involved, and Daredevil just isn't around for some reason. You guys let me know in the comments if you think this is too far out of left field. On another hand, a few more things have come out on the set of Spider-Man Brand New Day as they wrap up the first bit of filming in downtown Scotland. Some photos of Tom Holland looking completely homeless surfaced, and he seemed to be in a cemetery visiting Aunt May. A few of these photos are possibly slight spoiler territory, though it was reported that the actor blurred here wasn't actually filming and was just there in support. I'm really hoping this means we're getting something similar to The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Gwen Stacy's headstone, and we kind of see Peter visiting through the seasons like the end of that movie. In the set photos, we can see Peter laying down flowers, it's snowing, and he's dressed in clothes that look a lot more appropriate for a broke 20-year-old. In the last movie, he was literally wearing a jacket that costs $500 brand new, which, even when Tony Stark was alive, I don't think he was swinging that. Later in the day at that same location, he's seen in just a hoodie and a t-shirt, so it definitely seems possible multiple takes of different seasons were done. Speaking of his hoodie and t-shirt, this looks to be the same exact one he wears in Homecoming, or at least one very similar. A lot of people have sentimental clothing they hold on to for a very long time, so it's cool to see them bring back some of his wardrobe from those early films. The real important thing here is his t-shirt. Twitter pretty much instantly came to the conclusion that Peter is working at Delmar's now, just to get by, which I absolutely love. It feels like a natural progression since Peter doesn't really have an identity to stand on and get an actual job. I wonder if we'll get a scene where the cat recognizes Peter from all of the times he visited the deli and that one night he saved her after the bank explosion. Or maybe Mr. Delmar feels familiar to Peter and is more inclined to give him work. I don't know, either way I'm really happy to see Peter back in such a normal job. This is exactly where I started at my first long-term job, so it's really cool to be able to relate to the character all these years later, even as I enter adulthood. The last couple of notable details of on-set footage was filming of what appeared to be a few different vehicle crashes. The tank was crashing into several cars and was headed for a tour bus full of citizens. We saw this the first day we talked about the set, and it's pretty wild to see it full of people and the tank heading right towards it. Apparently they've been doing some extra work to block out the set for this work though, so there's not as much to see. Speaking of a bunch of wreckage, someone claimed to have spotted a Rhino head prop on set. Now, I don't know exactly how true this could be, as there's absolutely zero photos, and this does sound like something someone would make up to generate fake hype. It's definitely important to take a lot of this news at face value with where the source is from, unless it's directly from Marvel, Sony, or the actors themselves. And even they can be wrong sometimes. Some photos of what's being reported as the costume trailer on set of Spider-Man Brand New Day leaked, and they contain some pretty valuable information. We can see a few classic comic panels of Spidey posted up above some calendars, which isn't too much to go off of other than the fact that it was reported that the director, Daniel Destin Cretton, was planning on recreating multiple panels from the books in this film, which, if you ask me, should definitely be done more in these movies. I don't know why they don't. The most important photo in this grouping happens to be the one with all the sticky notes. Now, we can see some costume designs for the Department of Damage Control, and we're unsure if these are final designs, but it's cool to see that thought is even being put into something so easily overlooked. Next to that, we have 3 full months of calendar littered with sticky notes on each day. Even when zoomed in, it's extremely hard to read, which leads me to believe that it is possible that these photos are fake. I'm not totally positive on either side, and most of what's been deciphered here does seem to be believable, but it is fun to break these down, and I enjoy updating you all in my own way. A user known as Morgan Nerd Fairy on Twitter has been breaking down the photos and charting out what they can make out. We get confirmation of a fight between Spider-Man and Scorpion, which they're shooting for a few days in the beginning of September. I'm really hoping we get that practical Scorpion suit similar to the comics or even the PS4 game. I would be totally cool with. I think it would be really intuitive if for his tail, the designers do something similar to Doc Ock's arms in Spider-Man 2, like physical puppets. They just did a puppet with Herbie in Fantastic Four, and I fully believe these sorts of things look so much better and tangible when they're puppeted by a talented puppeteer. Give him a thrashing tail like one of Ock's tentacles and I would be so incredibly happy. A little later on that schedule, we can see that they're filming Spidey fighting some of those Department of Damage Control guards in a place that might be called, quote, Black Park, is an actual park in Buckinghamshire, England, where the movie was already reported to be filming, so this tracks too. Another interesting detail is that this park is the same place where the opening scene for Deadpool and Wolverine was filmed. That same place where Deadpool is fighting all of the TVA agents in the beginning in the woods, yeah, that's the same place. It seems like Marvel loves using this lot for big fight scenes, and if I remember correctly, we didn't know a thing about that opening sequence until the film dropped, so I doubt these two scenes I've just mentioned will have any public access or reporting, but I'll definitely be keeping my eye out. But that'll about wrap it up for today's video on Spider-Man Brand New Day. I hope this video entertained you or got you excited for this film in some way. Definitely let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments below. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.